was super successful. Thank you for sending those pictures. That was really cool. I was in the department head meeting and they came through and I was like waiting for them to load, and I legit got the chills when I saw it. And you look beautiful. It's gonna work so well. Okay. I would love your genius marketing brain here, and also your EP brain. First of all, we got 2,600 submissions from around the country for Young Lily, which was incredible. We had a whole team of people sorting and watching, and really just anybody who vaguely resembled you and who could act a little bit made the list. I did a big callback for a few days, and we got it down. Here's the interesting embarrassment of riches predicament. So before we announced you, and probably for a couple years, Abigail Cohen was who a lot of the young fans wanted to be Lily.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about what really happened between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. One day they're the best of friends, collaborating on It Ends With Us, and the next, she's completely turned on him. Text messages leak where she's calling him a doofus to Taylor Swift. So what flipped the switch in April 2023? The answer is almost shockingly small. It all comes down to one voice memo, a single piece of audio where Justin responded to Blake's new ideas for the script. That's it. That was the match that lit this whole feud on fire. Here's the scene. Blake sends Justin pages for a big moment in the movie, the rooftop scene. She tells him this is her rewrite, her new take to make the character Lily more sharp and playful. We now know those pages came from Ryan Reynolds, not Blake. But she sends them over and waits for his reaction. He doesn't reply right away. A day later, he sends a voice message. And if you're expecting him to be rude or dismissive, you'll be surprised. This audio is actually incredibly polite. He apologizes for the delay, says he took a day to be with family and friends. Then he gets to the feedback. He starts with a ton of praise. He says he appreciates her passion, her collaborative spirit, and her ideas. He tells her he's genuinely excited to work with her because she cares so much, calling her smart, funny, and a great writer. He says the pages she sent made him laugh, and that his instinct is the final scene will be a combination of her new ideas and what was already written. His main note is about length. The scene is already long, and they have to be careful. But he loves the witty banter she's added and says, "I can see you in this. I want that for Lily." His closing thought? He's excited to workshop it together and find it together. That is the definition of collaborative feedback. He's not saying no. He's saying, this is great, let's figure out how to blend it in with the existing plan. But Blake and Ryan Reynolds heard something completely different. They didn't hear a collaborator. They heard a clown who thinks he's a writer now. They were furious he didn't immediately drop everything and declare her pages perfect. How do we know? Because 3 days later, Blake texts Taylor Swift with a plan. She invites Justin over and texts Taylor, "If this doofus director is still here when you arrive, I'll be shooing him out." She asks Taylor for a huge favor, to pretend she's read Blake's scene and to gush about how magnetic it is. Blake explains her anger. "He's a clown, told me he appreciates my passion." That's it. Let that sink in. Her entire problem is that he told her he appreciated her passion, the very compliment from his voice memo. She wanted blind, starstruck admiration, and she was willing to enlist Taylor Swift to manipulate him into giving it. After Taylor plays her part, Blake thanks her profusely, saying she recapped every moment to Ryan. This shows it was a united front. The offense wasn't just against Blake, it was against their combined creative input. So the first crack in the foundation wasn't about a major creative dispute. It was about a massive, bruised ego reacting to a professionally polite response. But the script drama is only half the story. The unsealed files have a second bombshell that hits Blake's professional credibility, not just her personal feelings. Blake has presented herself as a deeply involved executive producer. She told the Producers Guild, the PGA, that she was instrumental in casting, specifically mentioning she helped find the young actress to play young Lily. A voice memo from Justin, sent months earlier in January 2023, paints a very different picture of how that casting actually went down. In the audio, Justin updates Blake. He explains that his team put out a massive public casting call for young Lily, looking for someone who truly looked like her. They got a staggering 2,600 submissions. A full casting department sifted through those thousands of tapes. Justin himself did days of callbacks. He did not send Blake 2,600 tapes. He and his team did that exhaustive work. By the time he called Blake, they had it down to 2 fantastic final choices. He presents them both. Option 1, Abigail Cowan. He acknowledges that for years, online fans wanted Abigail for the role if the characters were younger. He says she's talented but has one big issue. She really doesn't look anything like you. He worries the audience wouldn't believe she was a young Blake Lively. Option 2, and his clear favorite, a newcomer named Isabela Ferrer. He found her, a recent acting graduate. He calls her a beast of a talent and says the resemblance to Blake is uncanny. He believes she would make the flashback scenes feel perfectly real. He then asks for Blake's marketing brain and her producer brain to weigh in on the choice. It's a classic dilemma: go with the known fan favorite for marketing, or go with the perfect unknown for the art. He says he'll think on it and talk to Sony, but he wants her thoughts. Now, compare this collaborative update with Blake's claim to the PGA that she personally went through hundreds of casting tapes to find the young cast. The audio shows she was brought in at the very end to choose between 2 pre-vetted, excellent options. She did not sort through thousands or even hundreds of submissions. The foundational, grueling work was done by Justin's casting department. This matters because the PGA producer credit is a certified stamp. It's meant to prove someone did the real, ground-up work of making a film, developing, hiring, managing. If Blake secured that credit by overstating her hands-on role in a key area like casting, it challenges the legitimacy of that credit. She's claiming credit for the labor of Justin's team. We see a similar pattern with casting the role of Atlas. Texts show that after their first choice fell through, Justin's team found Brandon Sklenar. Justin then asked Blake if she could reach out to Brandon to gauge his interest. She participated in that final step, but she didn't originate the search. So we have 2 narratives: a personal feud born from a need for flattery, and a professional question about who really did the work. Both point to a central theme: a fierce need for control and recognition, whether it's over creative praise or official credit. With that foundation of resentment laid, what was the rest of production like? If things started with private texts calling the director a doofus, it's hard to imagine a harmonious set. The documents suggest the atmosphere became difficult. At one point, it appears Ryan Reynolds and his producing partner Sean Levy got involved. Messages indicate Sean Levy called Justin Baldoni. The implied message: to give Blake more leeway, to let her have her way to keep the peace. Imagine being the director and getting a call from another major producer essentially telling you to let the stars run the show to avoid their temper. It reframes Blake's anger as part of a pressure campaign. This context also changes how we view Blake's later criticisms of the film's content. In the fallout, she would criticize the movie's direction, suggesting it was becoming overly sexual and blaming Justin's sensibilities. But the facts don't support that. The screenwriter was Christy Hall. Script changes were driven by notes from the studio, Sony, which has specific expectations for a film's rating and audience. For Blake to privately blame Justin, accusing him of being the writer, and inserting content, misrepresents the entire process. It was an easy way to publicly discredit him by painting him as someone corrupting the story, when he was likely just executing studio mandates. This highlights the core clash. One side, Justin, the writer, the casting directors, was working within the standard, hierarchical system of studio filmmaking. The other side, Blake and Ryan, seemed to expect that system to bend entirely to their will, interpreting any standard process or delayed response as a personal insult or professional failure. The scale of the overreaction is telling. This meltdown wasn't triggered by a stolen idea or a screaming match. It was triggered by a 24-hour delay and a voice memo that said, "Let's work on this," instead of "This is genius." It suggests an environment where only total agreement was considered respect. Blake has spoken in interviews about having a big ego. These texts reveal that ego in action. Her rant to Taylor about Justin not recognizing Taylor's supreme, godlike status in music is particularly revealing. She claims Taylor is the most awarded and most respected, statements that aren't factually true in the competitive landscape of awards. This isn't about defending a friend, it's about Blake's worldview. She aligns herself with this greatest living storyteller, and by extension, demands to be treated with the same level of unquestioning reverence. Anyone not offering that is, in her view, insecure and green. It's a perspective focused on social hierarchy and perception, seemingly disconnected from the practical, unglamorous work of sifting through 2,600 audition tapes or balancing a studio budget. That disconnect is where the professional partnership broke down irreparably. This conflict didn't stay a private matter. It exploded into legal battles and a serious challenge with the Producers Guild. Blake fought fiercely to keep these documents sealed, and now we see why. They don't just reveal meanness, they potentially threaten a certified professional credential. The PGA mark is a serious matter. The Guild arbitrates who gets the produced by credit based on strict guidelines about who actually did the producing work, development, hiring, overseeing production. It's designed to prevent stars from getting the credit as a mere courtesy. Blake Lively has that PGA credit for It Ends With Us. Justin Baldoni's legal team has argued, using evidence like the casting audio, that she obtained it by overstating her contributions. If she told the PGA Arbitration Committee, she personally combed through hundreds of tapes to find Isabela Ferrer, but the evidence shows she was given two final choices after others did that work. It's a major discrepancy. It calls all her claimed producer work into question. This is the real stakes of the feud. It's about professional legitimacy in an industry built on credits. If the PGA were to review this and rescind her mark, it would be a massive career blow. This explains the intensity of the legal fight. It was about protecting a reputation and a hard-won industry stamp. The public narrative has now completely split. We have the glossy, red carpet version of a smooth, empowering collaboration. And we have this unsealed version, a production potentially derailed by ego manipulation and a struggle over who gets credit. The difference is staggering. Looking at Justin Baldoni through these documents, we see a director trying to manage an impossible situation. His early memos are the picture of patience. He's doing the work, the casting grind, integrating notes, trying to be collaborative. Then he becomes the target of a private smear campaign, gets pressure calls from other producers, and ends up in a lawsuit. The paper trail shows someone trying to do their job within the system, met with a level of hostility that seems to come from another planet. This situation forces hard questions about Hollywood. How common is this? How often do stars use their power to claim producing credit without doing the foundational work? And when there's a fight, whose story wins? For a long time, we only heard one side. These documents provide a counter-narrative that is deeply damaging and now part of the public record. So, after all of this, what's the final takeaway? The It Ends With Us feud is ultimately a story about a collision between two different Hollywood realities. It was a director's traditional, process-driven approach crashing into a star's expectation of automatic deference and control. The explosion happened over something tiny because the underlying pressure, the demand for total validation, was so immense. Beyond the drama, this is a case study in three big Hollywood issues: narrative, credit, and power. Narrative, we're sold a polished, empowering story for the public. These documents rip back the curtain to show the messy, often petty human emotions driving that story. It's a reminder that the official version is almost always a carefully constructed product. Credit, this is the most serious part. The PGA credit is a currency in Hollywood. If it can be gained by inflating your role or taking credit for a team's work, it devalues that currency for every real producer doing the unglamorous jobs. This case puts that integrity question on trial in the court of public opinion. Power, the Taylor Swift texts are the ultimate example of insulated, elite power. It's not just gossip. It's about casually deploying the world's biggest pop star as a tool to psychologically pressure a colleague. It reveals a layer of Hollywood where problems are solved by social leverage, not by professional communication. What questions remain? What will the PGA do? This is the biggest. The evidence is public and stark. Whether they investigate or ignore it will send a huge signal about how seriously they take their own standards. How did this shape the movie? How many creative decisions in the final film are reactions to this conflict rather than pure artistic choices? Where's the line for a star producer? Stars bring immense value. At what point does that value cross into the day-to-day, grinded-out work that defines a true producer? This case doesn't answer that, but it forces us to ask. At its heart, this is a human story, and a disappointing one. A project that started with genuine excitement, you can hear it in Justin's early voice memo, ended in legal documents and public mudslinging. A partnership that could have been powerful was poisoned by pride, insecurity, and a failure to communicate with basic professional respect. For us watching, it's a lesson to look deeper. The next time you see a film billed as a perfect collaboration, remember the process is always more complicated, more human, and sometimes more flawed than the trailer suggests. The real story is almost always behind the scenes. What do you all think? Does this evidence change how you see this Hollywood feud? Is this a one-time drama, or a symptom of a bigger issue with power and credit in the industry? Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. If you want more deep dives into the unfiltered stories behind the headlines, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell so you don't miss our next analysis. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you in the next video.